Mary Kay, let's get to it. Our Football Insider subscribers they want to know about the defensive coordinators. So let's just start. I got to start with this question because this comes from Nick, who says he's currently in Turks and is it Caicos Islands? I think so. He's currently in the Turks and Caicos Islands on vacation, and he texted us in a question. So Nick, of course, we're going to go to your question first. Hey, Mary Kay. Which defensive coordinator candidate do you think most aligns with the Browns' defensive players and their talents?
Well, I am just now starting to work through writing some sort of feature stories and taking a closer look at some of these guys. I just got done with one on Jerod Mayo. Now, my problem is whenever I start to dig into the backgrounds of these guys, I don't know that I'd be very good in the hiring process because I fall in love with every one of them. Once I start digging in and find out all of their wonderful qualities. And I had a grand old time doing this story on Jerod Mayo and really enjoyed hearing about him and reading about him. And, he comes from the Bill Belichick coaching tree. So to hear how he, back when he was in his second season, the guys would require him to go into Bill Belichick's office. I called it the Lion's Den, to go in there and ask if they could, get out of pads for the second practice or whatever the case may be. And, and how they relied on him to do that. And he was, I had this funny quote from a podcast where he was saying, I was thinking to myself, I can take him. Yeah. I'll go in and I'll ask him. And so he just seems like he's got that self-deprecating humor, that quick wit that endeared Jacoby Brissett to the Browns. I mean, he just seems like he has those, just that magnetic personality. And I think they need that. That's what I think this broken defense needs right now. Somebody to pull them together, to pull the best out of them, and to see if they can't get them all going in the right direction again. So I really like what I've read so far about Jerod Mayo. And then when I think about Jim Schwartz, I knew him back in, when he was here in the Bill Belichick era. I didn't know him really well back then, but I knew of him and he knew of me. And, he was in the personnel department back then. And, he's a no nonsense guy. He's tough nosed. He's got tons of experience. And I think he's got the same kind of leadership qualities that this defense really needs. I haven't really done all of my due diligence yet on Sean Desai, who's now with the Seahawks, or Brian Flores, who is now with the Steelers. So just starting to really do a lot of homework on these guys, but they've got some really good candidates. And I think that might be the number one thing, is to pull these guys together and be able to get the best out of each and every one of them.
Yeah, going back to what you said about, not being able to handle the hiring process because you like all these people, because as it turns out, a lot of these coaches that end up getting coordinator interviews are really ambitious and they're great leaders and they know football really well. And it's like, oh yeah, of course I'd hire that guy. So I'm kind of the same way. You start to do research on these guys. It's like, oh yeah, of course that guy's going to be great. He's going to be the next Bill Belichick. So we had a question. Let's kind of keep going down the defensive coordinator road here. This comes from Mike in Chester, Maryland. Hey, Mary Kay, do you think the Browns are open to changing their defensive scheme in 2023 to align with the strengths of the players rather than making players adjust to their system? And I think this also includes, let's say Brian Flores sits down and says, this is the defense I want to run, and it's a little different than what you guys do. Would they be willing to make those adjustments?
I think so. I think they are open to whatever they can do to make this defense as good as it can get. And I mean, you don't necessarily want to completely overhaul your whole roster. And I don't think they'll have to do that. I think they've got enough versatility amongst most of their defensive players that they should be able to adapt. I mean, whether or not in the back end, if you want to play, more Tampa 2, or if you want to play more man coverage or whatever you want to do. I think they've got the guys to be able to do that on the back end. The front is where you usually have some differences in philosophy, whether you go 3-4, 4-3, whether you go bigger linebackers, and those kinds of things are a little bit different. But I think that they're going to pick the coordinator and let him put in place the defense. And I think that they will be able to adapt most of what they have to what the coordinator wants. And then they can go out and they can fill in the parts and the pieces, because they're going to have to do that anyways. They've got to get some defensive tackles, and they might have to get some linebackers. So, why not let the coordinator that you love and that the team falls in love with run his game, whatever that is?